Welcome to the next part of the guide in which we learn Blender. In the previous episode, I discussed the Blender download and installation and the Blender interface. We also put a floor on the stage, pulled an object above the floor, and painted both geometric figures with colors. To practice these actions again and show the possibilities of Blender, once again I suggest pressing the Shift-A keyboard shortcut. A menu will appear, from which select Cylinder. To move it, click the letter G, then the letter X, and move the cylinder with the mouse along the X-axis. Left mouse button confirms the move. Now we will pull the cylinder above the floor level and again click the key G because we want to move the cylinder relative to the Z-axis. Now that we have the cylinder selected, let's go to Material Properties. Let's click New. We have created a new material for the cylinder. I suggest calling it Cylinder. Let's change the color for our cylinder. Maybe let it be green. Let's save our project as Project 2. Again, click Shift-A. As you can see, there are a lot of different elements that here we can select and put into the scene. Let's add two more. That is, we'll also add a sphere. Now we will press the letter G, then X, and we will move the sphere to the right along the axis X. Then G, Z, and we will extend the sphere above the floor level. Press Shift-A again. I suggest adding the monkey Susan, Blender's mascot. This is one of the elements that has characterized Blender for many years. Susan has been used probably from the very beginning of Blender. Let's pull Susan a bit higher, then click G, Z, and pull Susan above the floor level. We can try to put it on the cube. Use the left mouse button to confirm the Susan's setting. Let's move on the to created ball. Let's click on it. Go to the Material Properties, then click New. A new material has been created. Let's call it Sphere, so we know it's a sphere material. Let's change the color of the ball, for example, to yellow. Then click the left mouse button on Susan. Let's move on the Material Properties, New, and let's color Susan. Let it be a color like this. Let's save our project. As you can see, we now have more objects in the scene than before. The objects are in the upper right corner. We have a camera, we have a cube and cylinder, and a light that illuminates our scene. Can be shown in animation view. Yes, that's how it looks like. Let's go back to the materials view. Here you can see floor, sphere and Susan. All objects are colored. Now, I'd like to show you some transformations. First, transformations related to space. Let me remind that if you want to enlarge the ball, I have to click the letter S on the keyboard, like scale. And just move the mouse to enlarge the ball. If I wanted to enlarge the sphere only in one of the dimensions, then I would have to click on the dimensions, S key, and for example X. And then something like an ellipse would be created. The escape key lets you exit if the changes I want to make are not what I want. This will change the look a bit. First, the cube, click the letter S, then the X, and we will stretch the cube to other sizes. Now, I would like to show you how to cut a hole in a cube, or how to cut it into all sorts of other pieces. We will use the roller for this. First, we will press the letter S, we will reduce the cylinder, then we will press S, then Z, we will extrude the cylinder up. Now we have a long piece of object. We click on it again, and by clicking the letter R or rotate, we can rotate our element. I'm going to click the X on the keyboard, so I'm only going to rotate this element along the X axis. Let's look a bit sideways. Let's reach for a long object. Let's click on the letter G and move the object. Let's put him in a cube. Now let's fix the rotation in relation to the x-axis. So let's tilt it a bit, and then in relation to the y-axis. So we have to click the letter G, and then we want to direct it down. So not even in relation to y-axis, but in relation to x, so that it goes down. Now it goes through our cube nicely. Another keyboard shortcut is the Shift D shortcut. If I stand on an object and press Shift D, this object will be duplicated, the copy will be created, which I can drag with the mouse to where I want. One more time, Shift D, duplicating an item. The moment I duplicated a cylinder, another cylinder was created. By double-clicking it, I get to edit it and rename the object to cylinder 2. It has the same color as the first one. Let's see on the right in Material Properties, both cylinders use the same material, which is called cylinder. By clicking plus, let's add another material. The new material, and let's call it cylinder 2, let's change cylinder 2 to a different color. Notice that now our old cylinder has only one color and we can assign two colors to the other. For example, we can use the minus button, remove the first color, and now cylinder number 2 has a pink color, which is a bit like Susan. At least I will move this cylinder, that is G, X, and I move it to the right, and then G, Z, I move it up. Remember, Ctrl S, we have the scene so that nothing but happens. The next step will be to make two holes through the cube. For example, imagine that you are building a game and in this game your characters have to squeeze through the holes in the cube. Blender allows you to do this in a very simple, easy and fun way. Cutting out one object with another object, we start by selecting the object to be cut. We want the holes to be created inside the cube. We need to go to the right side of the screen to modify the settings. We are looking for Modifier Properties. Click on the key icon. In the Add Modifier panel, we add Modifier Boolean. We use it basic settings, difference and exact. We have chosen to make changes through the object and indicate what kind of object it is. Let's click on the pipette, then hover over the object that we want to cut in our cube. So in my case it will be cylinder 2. I will click cylinder 2 and for this change to the cut to be saved, we must go back to modifier, click apply to accept the changes. Then we can take the object with which we cut into the cube, move it to see if the result of our work is what we wanted. I click the letter G, then the letter Z and move the object a little higher. Let's see. We have a very nice hole cut by the cylinder. Let's do the same with the second cylinder. Let's make a second hole here. Again, we first select the cube in which we want holes to be made. Then go to the modifier settings, add the Boolean modifier. And now we choose pipette again, we select the cylinder object, we click on it, the hole has been made, but for it to appear we approve the changes, or do we need to click apply again? Now we can use the letter G and the X button. Sorry, I didn't mark it. So we mark the letter cylinder again, G and X move. There you go. We have a second hole in our property. Let's do the same exercise again, but this time with Susan. Let's prepare a hole where we can hide Susan. Inside the cube, select the cube, add modifier Boolean. We take the pipette, mark Susan, and already if Susan was inside, we'd cut a hole the size of Susan, but of course Susan isn't inside yet. So let's go back to Susan for a moment. Let's move it down, click G, Z, and hide Susan inside the cube. It's almost fine now. Let's raise it up a bit. We mark the cube. We already have Susan selected. Let's delete it. Before that was her old settings. We will once again download Susan via pipette. Now apply. Let's check. Letters G, Z, take out Susan. Look! There is a hole to hide Susan. Imagine you are creating a game where Susan would suddenly pop out and scare out our hero. We can put Susan back into the opening we prepared earlier. That's all for this lesson. I invite you to watch the next lesson on the Blender program. If you like my videos and don't want to miss the next episode, subscribe to my channel. Regards, see you soon, bye bye!